Hey, y'all, let me ask you a question real quick. How does that work? How do I type in techwisetv.com and it knows where to redirect and send that stuff, right? You know, if you're an engineer, one of the things you have to do is when you're setting up servers, we give these things IP addresses. But how does the internet know? How can I be anywhere in the world and actually find techwisetv.com? Well, it's definitely pretty groovy, right? It's a service that we call DNS. Let me go here and show you how this works. DNS has been around, man, I mean, for 30 some odd years. It's actually even 40 some odd years. It was invented kind of back in the 60s in its rudimentary form. And they kind of kept trickling down until it became what we called bind. And there's a few different kinds of DNSs now, and they all have different advantages. But the big daddy, the king of them all, is actually called bind. Berkeley Internet Naming Domain is what bind stands for. If you're really interested in DNS, that's really what you want to be the specials in, is bind. Now DNS is definitely pretty relaxed and groovy. So let me walk through and show you kind of how this system works. It really works basically on what we call top-level domains. Now sitting up here at the very top is what we'll call a top-level domain, or TLD. And these TLDs are hosting all the important stuff, right? Like .com, like .org, so on and so forth, .gov. Any of those last extensions, these dots, are housed at a TLD. Now, they're what we call root servers that actually host this stuff. Down below that, we actually have our subdomains, our authoritative answering domains. And here's where things like techwisetv.com, and these are at different providers, right? techwisetv.com, cisco.com, all that stuff lives here. DNS itself is really like a big phone book, right? If we want if I want to call Rob, I would actually look up in my phone book, or even like on my phone. Right now, to know that Rob's calling and I need to kind of ignore it in the order received, I have his number in here, but my phone doesn't know that's Rob. I have to make a mapping and say Rob Boyd. And so when I do that, that's kind of like a little DNS server. And that's what we're talking about. This is how this works. It's that manual mapping process that actually goes to these servers and makes it work. Pretty groovy, right? Well, there's a little more to it than that. Not much more, though. I mean, it gets pretty darn complex, but to kind of understand what this means in a networking 101 type of fashion, this is what we're really dealing with. Now, obviously, as you can tell, DNS is pretty darn important. And we want to have usually quite a few DNS servers out there that are pretty much talking with each other. And let me get rid of that little box and let's just switch to the little drawing tool. There we go. We want these talking to each other and sharing information, because typically we're going to enter all of this information into these domains, and to get it to work right so people can find us, it needs to transfer. It needs to do what's called a zone transfer. Now, zone transfers are critical when it comes to communicating to the outside world. We want to be able to let people know that here's how you get to techwisetv.com. However, where we have like videos that we're editing, stuff like that, we really don't want the world to actually see that. Those are internal DNS servers. So in today's network, you're going to have more of a split DNS domain. You're going to have your external stuff you want everybody to see and access, and your internal stuff that you don't want anybody to actually connect up to. Very big discussion here, so we don't really want to get too far down the weeds, but just to let you know, there's a true difference between how we're setting this up. Now, in a 101 fashion, DNS servers are allocated based upon, let's go back to the phone book analogy, okay? In the phone book side, we have a residential and we have a commercial side, and then we have a government side, and then we have those pages in the back nobody ever looked at that kind of have little red tabs on them. What we're doing is these are all very specific name servers. So to find techwisetv.com, that's called a server record. And what we call in DNS, we call it an A record. An A record indicates a server, and it's basically saying that techwisetv.com, I'm going to shorten it here just for the heck of it, is actually at 172.16.1.2. Now, one of the things we want to do as well is we want to be able to index or look at this name backwards, or what they call a recursive lookup. So you'll have this also entered in backwards as well. So we'll have that under a CNAME lookup, And that'll actually say, basically it'll say the same thing. It'll say 172.16.1.2 is equal to techwisetv.com. Why? Because a lot of people, a lot of tools are going to connect up with an IP address. Now you can really find this information pretty quickly by just using some tools that are at your disposal. Most operating systems out there today have lookup tools where you can find out what DNS does. Let me show you one. Now I'm on a Mac right here, and in this Mac, I'm actually going to say that, okay, I'm going to bring up my terminal command, and I'm going to use an old Unix favorite, and we're going to call this NSLookup. We're not going to call it that. That's actually what the tool is called. NSLookup stands for Name Server Lookup. So let's do techwisetv.com. Did I spell it right? I did. Look at that. Rob will be so proud. Okay, now you see the information I got back? This is telling me that this is techwisetv.com. This is who answered this command. This is a non-authoritative answer for techwisetv.com. Non-authoritative means that it was answered by another server that doesn't own this mapping. Non-authoritative, it's kind of like if you got brothers, especially brothers, oh my goodness, and they say, Mom said that you have to clean my room and do the dishes and stuff. Because you didn't hear it from your mom, that's non-authoritative. And that's really what we're looking at here when it comes to DNS. When we're talking about a non-authoritative type of answer, that's what this actually is. Now, what you're going to see is that, so you can see, this is the answer. This is the server that actually answered that. 171.70.168.183, and it answered it on port 53 on this server. So you can break this down. And you can get into a lot of detail finding out how the world sees you, because this server does not live on our network. It actually lives somewhere else. Actually, when you look at it, techwisetv.com, as you saw when I connected up at the start of the show, it connects you to our YouTube link, and techwisetv.com is a forwarder, because you can do that too, right? I can point information to other servers. Just like when I showed you how that A record is in there, we can put an alias to that and say, anytime, or a forwarder, as I'll call it, anytime somebody connects to techwisetv.com, send them here. And it's going to forward that, as you saw, to our YouTube channel. So we can actually, host material anywhere we want to. Works pretty cool. DNS is the real king of the network when we're setting this stuff up. It actually holds all our mail records. Those are called MX records. You can actually have info, what they call H-info records, that you can type information about what that server is that connects up, and really do some pretty cool stuff with it. DNS is really went from something that belonged on the internet and that we kept in what you call a host file, been there forever and stuff, to actually a true critical piece of the network, a server that Active Directory, that all our appliances are actually connecting up to grab information. It's because it's so much easier. It's easier to troubleshoot. It also makes it so easy to load balance this stuff out. So now if I'm connecting to 15 different servers, techwisetv.com can have multiple addresses here, so it can connect up and actually round robin and share that information in case I have a failure or whatever the case may be. That can really be kind of cool. You can do some pretty cool tricks with DNS. It's a fantastic troubleshooting tool, especially NSLookup. NSLookup is one of my favorites for actually configuring this stuff up. There's a lot of cool ways to do it, but the most important thing to remember about DNS, consider it like a phone book. It's a manual mapping. Somebody has to put that information in there. Somebody has to type that in and get that correct and make sure it's all up. But just like that phone book, there's times that we may want an unpublished number, and we don't want people to find us in there. And those unpublished numbers really should be stuff like our internal servers and stuff. We don't want to allow zone transfers with the world, just only with the people that we trust, only with DNS servers that really need that information in there. So always consider, when you're looking at setting up a DNS server or you're trying to understand it, what does everybody need to know and what doesn't everyone need to know? DNS is a very split topic. Very cool, certainly very, very detailed.